Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to discuss the Lesson 8 Style Sheet Building Blocks. Objectives. Understand the role and purpose of cascading style sheets or CSS in web design. Implement the basic CSS syntax to style HTML elements. Link internal, external, and inline styles to your HTML document. And lastly, apply basic CSS properties such as color, font, and layout to improve the visual design of web pages. In cascading style sheets or CSS is a style sheet language used to describe the presentation of a document written in HTML or XML, including XML dialects such as SVG, MathML, or XHTML. So CSS properties are used to control the font, color, size, and other aspects of web page elements, while the CSS selectors are used to select the elements that you want to style. So HTML or Hypertext Markup Language and CSS or stands for Cascading Style Sheets are two of the most important languages for creating the web pages. So HTML is used to define the structure of web page, while CSS is used to style the element of a web page. The best thing about the CSS is that it allows you to make the global changes throughout your website. Thereby, it maintains a consistent appearance. Then let's proceed to comments in HTML. So comment tags are special annotations that allow developers to leave notes or explanation within the code without affecting the rendered output in the browser. So they are used for documentation purposes, enabling developers to communicate ideas, reminders, or explanations about the code without interfering with the user experience. So this is the syntax of the comment, or this is how we comment using the HTML. Then let's proceed to understanding HTML tags. So the first one is tag structure. So HTML tags follow a specific structure or content. Then the second one is opening and closing tags. So each tag has an opening and closing tag defining the start and the end of the element. So the third one is meaningful tags. Tags provide the semantic meaning to the HTML content, making it understandable for browsers and search engines. Then let's proceed to HTML tags. The HTML tags are the fundamental building blocks of HTML or Hypertext Markup Language used to create web pages. So they are special instructions enclosed within the angle brackets that define the structure and content of a web page. So the first one is document structure. So document structure, it contains four elements. The first one is HTML, the second one is head element, the third one is title, and the fourth one is body. The purpose of the HTML element is the role of element of an HTML document. Then the second is head element. So it contains meta information about the document. Then the third one is title. It sets the title of the document shown in the browser's title bar, and the last one is body element. So it contains the content of the document. Then let's proceed to text formatting. Text formatting, it contains four elements and it attributes. So the first one is H1 to H6 headings. The second one is P element. The third one is strong, and the fourth one is M. So H1 to H6 headings from largest to smallest. Then the second one is paragraph or P element. Then the third one is strong. Strong is an important text to bold the text. Then the fourth one is M element, and it emphasizes the text or use italic. Then let's proceed to the number 3, which is the links and images. So A anchor tag for links, and IMG embeds an image, and UL, OL, and LI it is an unordered and ordered list. And let's proceed to number 4, which is the table. First one is table. It defines a table, and the second one is TR, table row, TD, table data cell, table data or cell. Then TH is table header cell. Then the fifth one is forms. Form defines a form for user input, input field, text area, multi-line input field, and last is button, button element. Then lastly, number 6 is meta tags. Meta provides a metadata about the HTML document or character set, viewport settings, and etc. So let's proceed to the HTML elements, building blocks of web pages. So the first one is doc type declaration. So doc type declaration is a short for document type declaration. Is a statement that informs web browsers about the type of document being served and the version of HTML or XHTML that the document adheres to. The doc type declaration is a place at the top of the document. So this is the basic syntax of HTML and XHTML. So as you can see, the HTML doc type is shorter than the XHTML syntax of the doc type. So this is the syntax of XHTML. Then let's proceed to HTML elements. So HTML elements are defined using tags which usually comes in pairs, or an opening tag and closing tag. And it can contain attributes that provide additional information. So here are some of the fundamental HTML elements. The first one is structural elements. So it contains HTML, head, title, and body. Then let's proceed to text elements. So the first one is H1 to H6 header tags, and the second one is P. The third one is BR or line break, and the fourth one is HR or horizontal line to separate the content, and the fifth one is strong, indicates a strong importance, typically displayed as bold, and the sixth one is M, indicates the emphasized text, typically displayed as italic. Then let's proceed to the last elements. So it contains 3 elements. The first one is UL, an ordered list. Second is OL, ordered list. And LI is last item. It used within the both UL and OL. Then the fourth one is link and image elements. It contains A anchor. It creates a hyperlink, use the href attribute, and image element embeds an image, use the src attribute to specify the image URL, and out attribute for alternative text. Then the fifth HTML elements is table elements. So it contains 5 elements, 4 rather. The first one is table, defines a table. TR, the second one is TR, defines a table row. The third one is TH, defines the header cell in the table. And the fourth one is TD, defines a standard cell in the table. Then the sixth form elements is, it contains 5 elements. The first one is form. It defines form user input. The second one is input. It defines an input field. The third one is label, defines a label for an input element. The fourth one is text area, defines a multi-line text input. And the fifth one is button, defines a clickable button. Then the number 7 elements of HTML is semantic elements. So the first one is header, the second one is footer, the third one is nav, represent a section of navigation links. The fourth one is article, represent a self-contained piece of content that could be distributed independently. Then the fifth one is section, represents the grouping of content typically with a heading. Then the number 8 HTML elements is interactive elements. So it contains 3 elements. The first one is details, create a disclosure widget from which the user can obtain additional information or controls. Then the second one is summary, represent summary or heading for the details element. Then the third one is dialogue, defines a dialogue box or other interactive component. Then number 9 HTML elements is script and style elements. So it contains 2 elements. The first one is script, embeds JavaScript code within an HTML code document. Then the second one is style, embeds the CSS style within an HTML document. Then lastly, the HTML element is meta element. So it contains one element, which is the meta. So meta provides the metadata about the HTML document, such as character set, viewport settings, and description. So how do HTML and CSS work together? So HTML and CSS work together to create the web pages that defines the structure of a web page, and CSS styles the elements of a web page. So there are 3 ways to add CSS into your HTML file. So the first one is inline CSS, means it adds CSS directly into the HTML tag. Then the second one is internal CSS. It means that it defines the CSS style tags or attributes directly in the head of section of the HTML file. Then the third one is external CSS, means adding a link to an external CSS file in the head section of the HTML file. So this is the example code of the inline CSS and the internal CSS. So in making a code of inline CSS, you have to directly add the CSS into the HTML tag. So this is the code of inline CSS. Then let's proceed to internal CSS. So this is the example of internal CSS. And in external CSS, in creating the external CSS file is a straightforward process. So here's how you can do it step by step. So step 1 is create a CSS file, then open a text editor like Notepad, VS Code, or Sublime Text. And step 2 is you have to create a new file and save it with .css extension, for example, styles.css. So step 2, you have to write the CSS rules. So in your style CSS file, you can write your CSS rules or the code that you want to put in your CSS. And step 3 is link the CSS file to your HTML. In your HTML file, link the external CSS file in the head section using the link tag. And that's how the external CSS create. Then let's proceed to CSS structure and syntax. So there are 4 CSS structure and syntax. So the first one is selector. It targets the element to style and add style. It could be an HTML element, a class name, or an ID. So there could be a multiple elements, classes, or ID as well. Then a second one is property. So defines the aspect to the change, and it predefined terms in CSS that the web browsers understand, like font family, font size, and so on. Then the third one is value. So it specifies the desired style or value you assign to a property, like Arial, 16px, and so on. A value should always end with the semicolon. Then the fourth one is declaration. So it encapsulated within the curly brackets. Everything specified inside the curly brackets of a selector is termed as the part of the declaration. So as you can see in the image, P is a selector, and inside the parameter or curly brackets, font size is a property, and the value of it is 1.2, and inside of the curly brackets, it calls, or it considered as declaration. Then let's proceed to the positioning in CSS. So in CSS, positioning refers to the method used to place elements on a web page. So it controls the layout and location of an element in relation to the browser window, the parent element, or other element on the page. So CSS provides the different values for the position property, each offering a distinct way to control how and where an element appears. So here are the 5 main types of positioning in CSS. So the first one is static default. So this is the default value for all elements. So each elements are positioned according to the normal document flow where they naturally appear in HTML. So no special positioning behavior is applied. So this is the basic syntax of the static. So this is the example of syntax in static. Then the second one is relative. The element is positioned relative to its normal position in the document flow. So you can move the element using top, right, bottom, and left properties, but its original space is still reserved. So this is the syntax of the relative. The third one is absolute. So the element is removed from the normal document flow and positioned relative to its nearest position ancestor. So an ancestor element with a position value other than static. So if there is no position ancestor, it will be positioned relative to the initial containing block, and it often browse the window. So it does not reserve space in the layout. So this is the syntax of the absolute. Then the fourth one is fixed. The element is positioned relative to the browser window and it remains fixed even when the page is scrolled. Like the absolute, it is removed from the document flow and doesn't reserve space. So this is the syntax of the fixed. Then let's proceed to list of essential CSS properties. So the first one is text properties. So there are 5 text properties. So the first one is color. The second one is font family. The third one is font size. The fourth one is font weight, and the fifth one is text align. Then the second essential CSS properties is box model properties. So the first one is width, second is height, third is margin, fourth is padding, and fifth is border. Then the third properties is layout properties. So it contains 5 properties in layout properties. So first one is display, second is position, third is float, the fourth is z-index, it manages the stacking order of elements, and the fifth is overflow properties. And the fourth CSS properties is background and border properties. So it contains 5 background and border properties. So the first one is background color. The second one is background image. The third one is border color. The fourth one is border radius, create rounded corners. And the fifth one is back shadows. Then the fifth CSS properties is flexbox and grid properties. So the first one is display flex. It enable to flexbox layout. Then the second one is flex direction. It controls the direction of flex items. The third one is align items. Align flex items vertically. The fourth one is justify content. Align flex items horizontally. And the fifth one is grid template columns. It define the grid column layout. Then the six properties of the CSS is text styling properties. So the first one is text decoration, control text decorations, and the second one is line height, adjust the line height, and the third one is letter spacing, modify letter spacing. The fifth one is text transform, it transform text case, and the fifth one is white space, so it manage white space. So in conclusion, understanding the building blocks of style sheets is essential for creating visually appealing and well-structured web pages. By mastering the CSS syntax, different types of styles like inline, internal, and external, and various selectors, you gain control over the look and feel of your web content. So these foundational elements enable you to define the basic properties like color, fonts, and layout, ensuring a consistent design across your site. So as you become more proficient with CSS, you'll be able to create a responsive and dynamic web pages that enhance user experience and accessibility, ensuring your designs are both functional and visually compelling. So that's all for lesson 8.